Hello, today I'm going to be reading Chapter 7 of Takeout by Margaret Maron. The woman who opened the red door at the end of the block did not look like what Sam Hence's Aunt Lizzie would call a woman of the evening. She was almost as tall as he, with iron gray hair pinned back from her face by blue plastic barrettes. No perfumed hair or makeup and no sexy clothes. Instead, she wore white sneakers, khaki shorts, and a denim apron that covered the message on her t-shirt. The cloth in her hand smelled strongly of furniture polish. She looked at the badge Hence held up and rolled her eyes. "Oh, Christ, don't you people have anything better to do?" "Ma'am, what part of not a whorehouse do you not understand?" "Something wrong, Francis?" asked a woman's voice just from the head of the stairs above. "Just another effing policeman here to hassle you." From the room beyond, a gentle voice said, "Language, Francis." Peering over her shoulder, Hence saw an elderly woman of Asian descent who sat in a high-backed chair as she knitted something in fuzzy pink wool. "I'll handle this, Francis," said the first woman as she reached the foot of the stairs and came forward. "Besides, I think the dryer's ready to be unloaded." The one called Francis ceded her place at the door. "Did Cookie's pajama bottoms turn up?" "I don't think so." "Check the hampers and start another load." She turned to Hence. "May I help you, officer?" He held out his ID again. "Detective Hence, ma'am, and I'm not interested in what goes on here. I've come about the two deaths down at the other end of this block on Tuesday night. Are you Miss Jennings?" "Janice Jennings, yes. Do come in, detective." As she stood aside to let him enter, a man of late middle age hesitated at the bottom of the steps. "Ms. Lee, I'm Eustace Boyle." "1 minute, detective." She turned and called to the elderly woman. "Ms. Lee, a Mr. Boyle for you." The woman stowed her knitting in a basket beside the chair and reached for her cane. "Right on time," she beamed. "My room's on the second floor, but luckily we have an elevator." Boyle and Ms. Lee both had to be in their 70s, and both walked with pronounced limps as they passed down the hall and around the corner. A moment later, Hence heard an elevator door open. He was bemused. What was this? A cat house for the geriatric set? He followed Mrs. Jennings into a living room that was more like a hotel lounge. Somehow she didn't really fit his picture of a brothel keeper either, despite a good figure and a long single braid of thick brown hair. "As I told your Lieutenant Harold, I knew Matty only casually, and I never saw the other man. I was hoping to talk to the woman who serviced him. Maybe he said something to her about who would want him out of the way, or why. That would be Peg Overhold, but she's out of town right now. Her mother's sick, and she's gone up to help out for a few days. She's due back the 1st of next week. Was she the only one who gave him a freebie? No, as your lieutenant must have told you, I did too. I felt sorry for him, so I gave him food as well, and the occasional $5. Did you talk?" She gave him a puzzled look. "Of course we talked. You can't spend time with someone without talking. What do you think?" Actually, Hence didn't know what he thought. Hookers must have to put up with a lot of scumbags, and it was not his place to judge. But Janice Jennings seemed so fresh and clean that it was hard to imagine her with someone like Matty Mouton. Those discolored teeth, that sour skin, his street-soiled clothes. Was he in trouble? Fearful of anyone? She shook her head, and her braids swayed with emotion. Not fearful, just very, very sad. Someone he loved had died, and he couldn't talk about her without crying. That's why I asked Peg to take him if she had the time. She's such a natural empath. When did she last see him? I really couldn't say. I don't keep up with the bookings. Again, Hengst was puzzled. He'd never worked Vice, but it was his understanding that brothel owners took a percentage of a working girl's take. But then how do you know how much they owe you? How much they owe me? For a moment, Jennings' face mirrored Hengst's puzzlement. Then she started laughing. On the second floor of a building in Midtown, the assistant seated at the desk just inside Conan Munson Gallery smiled apologetically at the tall white man in jeans and a navy sports jacket who had just pulled open the glass door. "I'm sorry, sir, but we'll be closing in a few minutes." "That's okay," he said. "I'm not here to look at the exhibit. I'd like to see Miss Cohn." Benita Parsons gave a quick glance down at the calendar on her computer screen and saw only Elliot Buntrock's name. "She's in a meeting right now. Did you have an appointment?" "No, but I think she'll talk to me." A moment later, Hester Cohn looked up as her assistant tapped at her office door and entered without waiting for an answer. "Sorry, Hester, Mr. Buntrock, but there's a man here to see you." "Tell him to come back, Benita. We're busy right now." "I really think you should see him. Both of you. He says he's Oscar Newman's son." And that is the end of Chapter 7. And I will see you all tomorrow for Chapter 8. As always, have a wonderful day.